us to keep it within respectable and respectful bounds. Rabbi Israel ibn al-Nakawa in the Menorah HaMeor, which was the subject of my thesis, wrote in about the 1400s that a man should, quote, engage her first in conversation that puts her mind at ease and gladdens her. Thus your mind and intent will be in harmony with hers. Speak words that arouse her to passion, union, love, and desire. Never may you force her. In such a union the divine presence cannot abide. Quarrel not with her. Win her over with your words of graciousness and seductiveness. Okay, so the whole idea is that sex is absolutely accepted, normal, and a form of pleasure in Judaism, but never forced, never argued about. Now here is the prayer that all Jewish men are supposed to say just before they have intercourse. I'll give it to you if you want to memorize it. O Lord my God and God of my fathers, ground of all the universe, may it be your will that you emanate from your spirit of power unto me, and give me mind and strength in my organs and my body, that I might regularly fulfill the commandment pertaining to my sexual cycle, that there not be found in my organs, body, or passion any weakness or slackness, that there be no forcing, unseemly thought, confusion of mind, or weakening of power to prevent me from fulfilling my desire with my wife. Rather, now and forever, let my passion be ready for me without fail or slackness of organ at any time that I should desire. Amen.
Sounds like a Viagra.
What?
So it sounds like a Viagra.
I wouldn't know. Okay. Isn't that interesting, though? Sex in marriage is a mitzvah. It's a commandment. You're supposed to have sex twice on Friday night as part of Oneg Shabbat, the joy of Shabbat. Though not, in the Oneg Shabbat. But Jewish custom had it that you were to eat brisket on Friday night. Does anybody know why? Because you put a lot of garlic on it, and garlic was considered an aphrodisiac. Finally, Kedusha, to set apart or make holy, to treat as extra special. This is the way a husband should treat a wife and a wife a husband. And it's within this framework that Judaism sees sex taking place. Along with the give and take, the good days and the tough days of marriage, sex becomes part of a whole emotional mosaic. This is an emotional state that can only be arrived at in the course of living through marriage. That's the reason marriage in Hebrew is called Kedusha. Okay? Now, in the remaining 15 or so minutes, let me quickly go through, any questions up to this point? Let me go through a marriage service with you. Before the marriage starts, and I'm going to do this more traditionally than necessarily reformed. First of all, if the marriage occurs on Saturday, it has to be after sundown. Generally, after the first 3 stars appear in the sky, or at least 30 minutes after the astronomical, actual sundown. And conservative and Orthodox rabbis and many Reform rabbis hold to that. I don't. I gave up. I mean, I feel badly about it. On the other hand, it wasn't worth the fight on the others. So all year long, I set it at 5:30 for me. But I will not do it because that is really stretching the limit. In the winter, it's fine. In the summer months, it really isn't. But I figure God has to understand our situation. And, if I err, then I err. It's an error. Once it's time to go and sign the ketubah, the first thing that happens is the bride, of course, all her veil and everything is put on, and you have the bedekah. lifts the veil and the groom goes in to check if she is the one who he has been promised as the one she's to marry, so she isn't switched with her sister like late Rachel and Leah. And then you say a prayer that may you have as much joy and have thousands of children as Rebecca, Leah, Rachel, etc. Once that is done, then the ketubah is signed. It must be signed and witnessed in addition to the rabbi. In Orthodox Judaism, the rabbi does it. It's just two witnesses. The two witnesses have to be Jewish. And they cannot be blood relatives of either the groom or the bride. And they really should know their Hebrew names and should be able to write them or give them to the rabbi so the rabbi can write them. And a cantor in the United States can function for doing a marriage just like a rabbi can. What I like to do is have all the groom's family, all the bride's families, the best man, the maid of honor, the witnesses. It makes it really nice, and I have a little ceremony where I, after the signing of the ketubah, have the parents hold the top part of the ketubah and the bride and groom to hold the bottom, and I go through a whole ceremony of passing the tradition of family from the parents to the children. And it's a really moving ceremony. At the beginning of the ceremony, generally a prayer or two in general is said, and then there are the singing of 3 songs that talk about what a beautiful time this is. And then you go into the Erisin Nisuin, which is the betrothal or the engagement. You say the prayer for engagement, and then you say Borei Pri Hagafen, the blessing for the wine. And then you put the wine cup down. In the first part of that, you generally also say the Shehechianu prayer. Who knows what the Shehechianu prayer is? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu b'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, sovereign of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this joyous moment, because you never take a joyous moment for granted. Now, I want to add also, sometimes at the beginning of a wedding service, they have something called circling. And the way it was traditionally done is the groom stood still, and the bride circled him 7 times. There are many different explanations for that, which tells you that nobody has any idea why they do. But the explanations are kind of nice. To me, if you want to do it, this is just my personal feeling, if you want to do that, it's nice. Make sure you have the room to do it. I've noticed people, this is a great thing, they want to circle, there's no room really to do it. Number 2, in a way it almost seems like the bride showing her subservience to the groom, which isn't, I'm more for equality. So what I often suggest is that the bride circle the groom 3 times, the groom circle the bride 3 times, and they simultaneously circle each other 1 time, which is the 7 times. And by doing that, my explanation is they build a fence of security around each other, that the world outside is unpredictable and sometimes difficult, and by being together and coming together, they forge mutual sustenance and security for each other, and that the circling represents that. So I just throw that in as a possibility. There are times also when they want to light candles, and that's fine. If it's on a Saturday evening, it's very nice to start the ceremony with Havdalah. And everybody already now knows what Havdalah is, the separation of the end of Shabbat and the beginning of the new week. By the way, in the ketubah, if you do get married on a Saturday night, in the English part of the ketubah, it's going to have that it was on Saturday. The Aramaic part, where you write it in Hebrew, because you know that a ketubah is written in Aramaic, a cognate language of Hebrew. Same letters, spelling is different, grammar is a little different. But if you were there, it's written as though it's done on Sunday. Because once Shabbat is over, the new day is now Sunday. The next part of the service is the exchange of vows, and then is the exchange of rings. And the exchange of rings carries with it a formula. And the groom places in, if you do it traditionally, it's a ring that is absolutely plain. No stones, no holes, no anything on the right finger, index finger of the bride. It says, Hareat mekudeshet li b'taba'atzo kadat Moshe Israel. With this ring be thou consecrated unto me as my wife according to the law of God and the faith of Israel. In traditional Judaism, conservative and Orthodox, the bride doesn't do that for the groom. In Reform, and now today more conservative, the bride often gives a ring to the groom. She says the same formula, but she does it, the pronouns are written for a man instead of a woman. So there's that exchange of vows. Now, somewhere in there, the ketubah can be read. And some rabbis read both the Aramaic, which nobody understands, or the English, or both. It just depends on the given rabbi. And then the Sheva Brachot, or the 7 blessings, are read. And those ask God to bring joy for the couple. Thank you for creating men and women. Thank you for the voices of children at play and in the streets. Thank you for and bring fertility to this couple. All of that is part of those 7 blessings. And they're really beautiful when a rabbi or a cantor chants them. I don't chant well, so I just read them. But you might want to consider it at your wedding. You might want to actually have a cantor chant them, or sometimes the rabbi chants them. Otherwise, as in my case, we read them. And then you drink a second time for the cup of wine to seal the actual nisuin, which is the actual marriage. And then, of course, you're pronounced husband and wife. If it's somewhat Sephardic, or sometimes couples like to do it even if they're not Sephardic, before the final blessing, the groom takes his talit and wraps it like a shawl around himself and his bride. She holds one side, he holds the other, and the rabbi blesses him, Yevarechecha. So, and then at that point they would take the shawl, the talit off and put it back on the table. And then comes knas. Who knows what K-N-A-S-S in English, what knas is? Knas is the breaking of the glass. And what does it mean? Nobody has an idea. But there are a lot of explanations. Some say that it shows the fragility of marriage. I like to say that it's a reminder of a very sad and shattering time in the life of the Jewish people, namely a reminder of the destruction of the 2 temples in Jerusalem. Why would you remember something that sad at a time that is so happy? And the answer is that even in the best of marriages, there are always some shattering moments. And in those shattering moments, bride and groom, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the road, should stop and remember how they felt about each other on their wedding day. And if I were to try to encapsulate or put into a bottle one feeling, one emotion, one first aid, in a case of emergency, break glass and pull out the fire extinguisher, it would be that fall. How did the 2 of you feel about each other on your wedding day? What is it that really brought you together? What is it that attracted you to each other? It's easy to lose that over the years. It's easy to lose it at the very beginning. But if you will emotionally